So this is Grim Dawn. You can see this is my character. It's female, I think. It's hard to say. Probably. I think there's some shapes there to indicate that. Yeah. So this is my character. Apparently, they're all. I don't know if they're all witch hunters. I assume they are. But she is actually a Nightblade with an occultist subclass. So we'll certainly be looking at that a little bit more deeply as we start up the game. This is from a company called Crate Entertainment. They were, I believe, started by a couple of people that were behind or from the company that did titanquest. I think they actually licensed the titanquest engine. That's what we're looking at with this game. And I think it came out after their kickstarting project was successful that there's only actually like 2 of them with a couple of contractors that are doing all of this work. So with that in mind, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. I did play through it a couple of hours first, just because I don't like doing early impressions off of games. Just with the first hour, that always seems a little unfair to me. So I did play through it a little bit, advanced a little bit, tried to figure out if there was going to be any story involved. I don't know if you can hear the music all that well. I mean, the audio was challenging enough without getting the background music to play through at a nice level. But it's really Silent Hill. And if you hear that throughout the gameplay as we start playing, maybe that will be reminiscent to you also. It's really, really atmospheric, which could be a little odd, I guess, for an action RPG. But that said, let's go ahead and get this started. Before we go through let's look at the options. We do have all the general options here are fine. I didn't mess with those. You can keybind anything, and I did. That's why we got a bunch of letters in here instead of numbers. You got the volumes, all that sort of stuff. And then you got all of the expected video settings that you would want. I put them all to high. There is some level of lag, but it doesn't appear to be frame rate lag. It seems to be something else. Not sure what's going on there, but you will see it in the game, and take it for what it is. It is early access. A few things do seem to be missing, like a story, and there does appear to be a few video glitches also. So that said, let's go ahead and jump into the game. I forget exactly where I jumped out, so this might get me killed, but we'll see. Okay. Aha, so it puts you at the beginning again. Okay, that's interesting. Alright. Cool. So, this is the starting town, Devil's Crossing. We have some NPCs. This NPC I've already started a quest for. We go through here, expands into a little bigger, slightly bigger area. Green means you can interact with them, and they just interact with you. Sometimes it seems like they interact with you just for running up to them, but I think that's more tied to a problem with the game in general, where you are encouraged to keep your finger on the mouse button, the left mouse button, permanently. You never take it off. And that, I think, is a problem. Not least finger fatigue for holding down the mouse button constantly. But I think that there's some limitations to that too. So we'll maybe get into that a little bit. The game looks good. It does look good. There are some peculiar clipping issues where generally you would expect something to disappear like this. You can see our character. Occasionally that does not happen, seemingly with trees more than anything else. Rare though, not too often. here's the character sheet. I recently leveled up, so I get to spend a point in one of these stats right here. Physique is definitely the warrior stat, but the one problem that is obvious, I would say, about this game is that you are, generally speaking, punished pretty severely if you don't take a decent amount of physique, because the combat is straightforward, I think is what we'll say, at least initially. I can't speak for what it might get to as you get more talents and abilities, but initially, anyway, it does appear like you pretty much just tank everything with your face, regardless of what your spec is. I picked, as I said, a Nightblade, which seemed very roguish in its construction. Definitely physical, but their primary stat certainly seems to be cunning. And I tried pushing cunning quite early, and then I got crushed pretty hard for not having enough physique. So I burned a lot of healing very early in the game. Just from that decision. So what I decided pretty quickly was I did need a certain amount of physique. So I invested in that pretty heavily for the first 5 or 6 levels, and then I'm just letting it rise up by itself with leveling. Cunning is more about damage. It's all about melee damage and critical strikes. So definitely good for what I'm trying to do. Not so good for staying alive, though. And then Spirits is casting. I did take casting as my secondary spec, which is something you get to do at level 10, but I did not really plan to use their casting. I just really wanted to get their pet. So I might invest in Spirit at some point, but right now I'm investing still in Cunning. So that's what we're going to do. There's a lot of resistances, there's a lot of offensive abilities, there's a lot of stats. Lots and lots of stats. Nothing wrong with that. If you want to look into the stats, you're welcome to do so. They all seem fairly standard, especially based on the fact that it is coming out of the titanquest engine. But there are 3 pages of them, so have fun with that. Okay, I guess the equipment stuff shouldn't be surprising to anyone that likes action RPGs. It's all pretty standard stuff. This is all stuff that you can put on to enhance your abilities or to increase your damage or whatever. Nothing special here. There is, and they've got a pretty good example of this here. So we have magic items, you have rare items, and you have epic items. I haven't seen anything above epic. I'm assuming there probably is something above epic. Not sure. But I'm going to go ahead and start putting on some of this stuff because it's brand new to me because I just hit level 14. So I think we are going to use that one. And I think that's everything. And then we're going to clear out this inventory and we will start the process. I have been looking at the stats are a little overwhelming, I have to admit. So grimcalc.com, I guess, is to help you set up your specs and such. Talking of specs, I went with Nightblade for my primary, and we went with Occultist for the secondary. Occultist I went with primarily only to get a familiar. Not sure that that's a particularly good way of doing things, but I like familiars. So, talking of which, we'll go ahead and summon him. Yeah, and then these square abilities here, they are the ones that seem to be active. So you can see they show up down here. To add them, you just right click on them. And actually it does tell you that, which is kind of nice because games like Diablo sure didn't tell you that very upfront anyway. I think I have one more ability I can add on here, so let's go ahead and do that. What did I get? Pet Familiar, Curse of Frailty, Phantasmal Blades, no. Lethal Gambit, no. Veil of Shadow, there we go. Actually, I think that's an aura style ability, I think. So we're going to go ahead and put it at one of these later hot buttons. There we go. Alright, so it's toggled on. I don't know if it stays toggled on. We'll assume it does for now. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump over to Burwich Village outskirts and see what we can do. Yeah, that's the one I want. One thing I noticed about these abilities is, especially this Lethal Gambit, I can't really tell if it's being effective. Like, there's not a whole lot of user feedback, at least visually, to let you know that it's actually doing anything. So I think that's kind of interesting. And again, if you listen to the background music, it's so Silent Hill. Like, the music is not at all what you'd expect from an action RPG. It's definitely interesting. I've been through a lot of this stuff already because I was trying to get to the outskirts because that's where my quests are. The game is very pretty. You can see there is a little bit of lag. Not sure. It seems to only lag when a lot of things end up showing up on the screen with abilities. Things that just attack me don't seem to do much of anything. This wasn't something I was running into much yesterday when I was doing my initial couple of hours of getting used to the game. Ah, alright. That's kind of interesting. So you can. Interesting. Huh. Alright. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, as far as being an early access game, I mean, this is truly what early access games should be. As I said, I'm not sure if the story is restricted at all. Like, that does seem to be something that's not as prevalent as I was expecting, especially since atmosphere seems to be a lot of what they're going for. But overall, I mean, yeah, there's definitely some lag. There's some very odd clipping with a couple of the trees. Like, I found some trees that you run behind that don't go away, which could prove to be awkward in the fight that I discovered that. But overall, very slick. Real nice job. And I guess there's only literally a couple of them doing this off of that titanquest. Off of that titanquest engine. Yeah, the dual wielding procs are interesting, and you do see them a lot. Like, as I said, the visual feedback, I think they could do a little bit more with Lethal Gambit to make it more obvious that it's actually doing something, because the passive procs are pretty constant, I've noticed. Like, there's one, I think, that makes it hit multiple targets and such. Okay, interesting. I remember this feature. I think that feature was from Titan Quest, isn't it? I remember that feature from that game. Neat. Of course, now I've forgotten where north is, so I'll switch it back. But, interesting. Cool. It's a, yeah, slick game. It's a real slick game. Not a whole lot of major criticisms. I think AI attacking you through walls is kind of interesting. They don't get to hit you through walls, but they are certainly trying to attack you, so I think that was kind of fun. Ran into a disappearing spider earlier where it was hiding behind a wall. I walked away, came back, and it teleported and was running towards me down, you know, the road. Wonder how close I am to getting to Burwich here. Let's find out. That's a cave entrance. Alright, that's interesting. Yeah, there's that lag again. And it seems really, it literally only seems to be right now, anyway, when there's a lot of effects going on, which may be one of the reasons why the visual feedback of some of the player effects are a little bit muted, a little bit laid back. What have we got going on? Just nothing. Alright, so we'll pick up the yellow stuff, because we always pick up the yellow stuff. These burning boots, man. They're pretty cool stuff. Totally random drop from an enemy, too. It wasn't like it was a... wasn't like it was a major boss type dude or anything, so that was kind of fun. It's nice to see that sort of thing happen. Alright, where are ya? So... yeah, so thanks to Get Witcher, apparently someone that's played the game a little bit and gave me a few hints and tips there. So that's cool. Thank you. What I will say is there are a few things that are a bit odd about this game. The first one is the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack is odd. There's no question about that. It is atmospheric, and as I said, but it seems a lot more in tune with a slow-paced, more not necessarily horror, but certainly a much more slow-paced game. So it feels a little out of place. It's good music though. It does sound good, and there are these constant sound effects going on in the background where there are screams and, you know, whatever else. You know, definitely evocative sound effects and evocative music, but it's lost a lot when you're in a game like this where it's an action RPG, where the sounds that you're hearing more often than not are the squelching sounds of squelching, you know, a lot of the squelching sounds of combat. So it's sort of a wasted, almost a wasted music element. But it is interesting that it's definitely evocative of the scenario and the world they're trying to build, in the fact that it is grim. I mean, Grim Dawn is definitely being supported by a lot of the decisions they've made. It's just a very odd decision when you combine it with what an action RPG is doing. Another thing I've noticed about the game that seemed very odd to me is the effectiveness, or the lack of effectiveness, of the shift stay still mechanic. In the fact that when you're holding down shift, it doesn't seem like you can use your auto attacks particularly well. I'm not sure if that's something that's intended, or if that's something that actually is a restriction of this early access version of the game, where they wouldn't necessarily expect you to hold down shift to use an ability so you're not running around, because it's a skill shot style ability, and when you hold down the shift you can't actually target anything with your auto attack. So that seems odd to me. Yeah, which I definitely agree. It's definitely easing you into it. I've gotten into a few more situations where there's definitely a bigger boss to fight. The boss fights were interesting in the fact that there's not a whole lot of evasion, it seems, in this game. Running out of an effect seems to be about the limit of it. So I did end up making a much more tanky version of the character I thought I was going to be making by investing in the physique early, which was sort of interesting. Yeah, so if we pull up the map, there are, so Get Witcher, who's someone that's chatting in the chat right now. What he's saying is that you can interact with the map, and I did notice that was something that was kind of cool. Is you can click on the various buttons, and assuming that your view is wide enough, if there's something that matches that element, like I just hit Rift Gate, the Rift Gate, and it shows me where the Rift Gate is. Or I can click on this and see where maps, click on the quest thing, and I'll see what's currently active for the map, as far as questing is concerned, which is a really nice feature. That was something that was easily missed too, though. So I think that they could have a little bit more with a bit of a tutorial element. Apparently I missed something. Let's see. Not exactly sure how you can... Okay. I'll go talk to Algrim. He looks interesting. You know, so a lot of the criticisms, I guess you would say, I have of the game so far are not significant. It plays really slick for a game that is being built by 2 dudes and a couple of contractors. Hope you enjoyed the first video of this series, and if you did, go ahead and click on like or follow or whatever the social media platform of your choice asks you to do, so I know I'm on the right track. This is Sanlumiere saying goodbye, and thank you for watching.